Might it be said that you are feeling overpowered by the consistent stream of considerations to you? You are not the only one going through this. In the present speedy world, having clear and centered speculation can feel like an uncommon superpower. Be that as it may, there is trust. The old indifferent bosses of the psyche have given a fortune guide to exploring mental haze and opening internal lucidity. This video will go over 11 important Stoic lessons that can change how you think and make your life better. This isn't simply a hypothetical way of thinking, however, a reasonable tool compartment that you can use to accomplish more prominent mental lucidity and harmony. To remain refreshed with every video as we dive further into each groundbreaking illustration, join our local area of students and offer your encounters and bits of knowledge in the remarks underneath. We can uphold and energize each other on the excursion to more clear reasoning. Example number 1: hug uncertainty and question. Music suspicions. The Stoics had a quick point of view on the human condition. They accepted that genuine insight comes from perceiving the limitlessness of what we don't have any idea. This might appear to be strange. However, Seneca called attention to that hope can obstruct us from making a move. Mental barriers prevent us from seeing clearly and responding effectively when we hold on to assumptions without questioning them. So how might we break liberated from these purposeful constraints and develop the reliable discernment that the Stoics pushed? The response lies in embracing uncertainty and scrutinizing our suspicions. The first step in deconstructing our initial thoughts is as follows. Our cerebrums normally create speedy decisions in view of restricted data and imbued biases. These underlying considerations could appear to be instinctive, yet they can be defective. We can challenge them by asking ourselves, what proof backings this idea? Are there elective viewpoints that I actually need to consider? Might my inclinations at any point impact my understanding? By effectively investigating our underlying considerations, we can work on the mental inclinations that cloud our judgment and lead us astray. Second, we ought to look for opposing viewpoints. We will quite often encircle ourselves with individuals who share our perspectives, making closed quarters and supporting our inclinations. To widen how we might interpret the world and open ourselves to vulnerable sides in our reasoning, we ought to deliberately search out different viewpoints. Restricting perspectives, testing contentions, and new encounters. Thirdly, we should embrace the force of imagine a scenario in which questions. Rather than tolerating things at face esteem, we ought to investigate elective situations. Challenge the status quo and think about unintended consequences. This psychological spryness permits us to expect issues and go with additional educated choices. Fourthly, we can rehearse fallen angel support. We can distinguish possible blemishes and counter-arguments for our viewpoints and convictions. This self-examination, propelled by the unemotional act of pessimistic representation, fortifies our contentions and uncovered coherent false notions. At long last, we ought to track down delight in scholarly modesty. Being open to new evidence or perspectives and acknowledging our knowledge's limitations are the hallmarks of true wisdom. Scholarly modesty is the groundwork of reliable discernment and deep-rooted learning. It's memorables vital that examining suppositions isn't concerning cultivating self-question, however engaging ourselves to think basically and go with all-around contemplated choices. By embracing these emotionless standards, we can open the way to a more straightforward, more keen brain prepared to explore the world's intricacies with intelligence and beauty. So we should set out on this excursion of scholarly investigation. Question intensely and find the genuine capability of our reasoning. Illustration number 2. Define your objectives and values. Envision setting out on an excursion across a tremendous sea with practically no instruments to direct you. You wouldn't know where you were going or where to go because you'd be at the mercy of the shifting winds and currents. In any case, on the off chance that you had a solid compass to direct you and a reasonable objective at the top of the priority list, you could explore with reason even through the most difficult circumstances. Having clearly defined values and objectives is crucial because of this. They help you navigate the erratic currents of life like a compass and map. The Stoics were known for their accentuation on self-assessment and intentional living. As indicated by Marcus Aurelius, the unemotional sovereign, experience every day perseveringly, and look at yourself. He understood the significance of being self-aware and having a clear sense of purpose when navigating the difficulties of life. To plot your own course, you should start with a self-disclosure venture and stick to specific standards. To begin with, you should jump profound into your qualities and recognize the main thing to you. This could be honesty, sympathy, imagination, or something completely different. Mirror your encounters, feelings, and desires to decide your center standards in any event while confronting difficulties. This will assist you with laying out a dynamic interaction establishment that lines up with your basic beliefs. Once you understand your qualities, you can change over them into substantial desires and objectives. Take into account both long-term goals and more immediate objectives. Ask yourself what significant commitments you need to make to the world, what abilities and information you need to develop, and what encounters you need. Laying out clear objectives gives guidance and inspiration. It's indispensable to guarantee that your objectives line up with your fundamental beliefs. Not impulsive desires or external pressures. Inquire as to whether your objectives line up with your most profound qualities. It is essential to embrace flexibility because life is dynamic and a voyage is not a fixed destination. If achieving them will contribute to your sense of purpose and fulfillment, and if you are willing to make sacrifices and face challenges in order to achieve them, be ready to adjust your objectives as you gain and develop from new encounters. Startling difficulties and developing qualities might require a course where dresses embrace adaptability and stay open to change while remaining consistent with your fundamental beliefs. The Stoics can be a wellspring of motivation while adjusting values and objectives. Shift focus over to the compositions of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca for direction on self-reflection, reason-driven living, and exploring life's difficulties with poise. And characterizing your qualities and objectives is a ceaseless cycle, not a one-time occasion, with reliable self-reflection. With adapt transformation and the insight of the Stoics as your aid, you can outline a course towards a satisfying and bona fide venture. So set forth, certainly, realizing that your qualities and objectives are your compass directing you towards a day-to-day existence loaded up with significance and RPOs. Example number 3. Cognitive biases should be avoided. Envision strolling through a thick woodland with a failing compass. Each turn turns into a gamble, taking you more profound into obscure domain. Sadly, our minds are not generally dependable compasses, all things considered. Mental alternate routes, known as mental predispositions, can contort reality and steer us off track. Like the Stoics who painstakingly analyze their decisions, we should know about these predispositions and effectively diminish their impact. Mental inclinations are examples of deviation from objective reasoning. While they speed up our ability to process information, they can also lead to judgmental errors and distortions. Here are typical predispositions and ways of combating stitch. Tendency to look for predictable feedback. Have you at any point saw how we keep an eye on filter out data that upholds our perspective while overlooking all the challenges it? All people are susceptible to confirmation bias, a cognitive bias. It can dazzle us to reality and keep us from using wise judgment, so it's vital to know about and beat it whenever the situation allows. This makes a self-building up cycle, making it challenging to stay liberal about how to battle the predisposition. Effectively search out restricting perspectives and challenge your suspicions. Peruse articles with contrasting viewpoints. Banter consciously and think about elective clarifications. Accessibility inclination. We misjudge the likelihood of occasions in view of promptly accessible models. For example, seeing a plane accident on the news could make you dread flying despite the fact that it is genuinely protected. How to overcome bias. Make decisions based on facts and figures, not just vivid stories. Assemble thorough information and think about the more extensive setting prior to making determinations. Bias and anchoring. We give unjustifiable significance to the principal snippet of data we experience, involving it as a beginning stage for resulting decisions. For instance, an underlying rebate could cause an item to appear to be more important than it really is. Step-by-step instructions to battle the inclination. Be aware of beginning stages and starting offers. Before making a decision, gather as many data points as possible. Compare the benefits, features, and prices. Impartially. Fat impact. We will generally take on convictions or ways of behaving in light of the fact that others do so, no matter what their characteristic legitimacy. This can prompt pursuing directions or joining groups, regardless of whether it conflicts with our singular judgment. Instructions to battle the inclination. Ponder why you trust something. Before blindly following the crowd, take into account your own values and the evidence. In bunch predisposition, we favor individuals from our gathering, family, companions, and associates over outsiders. In any event, when the circumstance doesn't warrant it, it is crucial to remember that one-sided or oppressive navigation can happen, and this can bring about unreasonable treatment. Step-by-step instructions to battle the predisposition. Know about your gathering affiliations and their expected impact. Assess people in light of their activities and legitimacy, not their gathering participation. Keep in mind, understanding these predispositions is only the initial step. Stoics like Epictetus stressed moral obligation regarding our decisions. Effectively dissect predispositions by looking for assorted points of view. Assessing proof equitably and rehearsing decisive reasoning. Thusly, we develop clear and unprejudiced reasoning, engaging us to use wise judgment and explore life's intricacies with more noteworthy insight and understanding. Subsequently, we set out on this excursion of mindfulness and mental lucidity. Arm yourself with information on mental inclinations, and similar to a gifted pilot, write a defective compass. Graph your course towards a more educated and knowing future. Example number 4. Assemble proof and look for different viewpoints. Envision framing an assessment on a confounded issue in light of just a single news story or a conversation with somebody who shares your perspectives. It resembles painting a work of art with only one tone. You could catch a piece of reality, yet you won't see the entire picture. The Stoics, who esteemed reason and rationale, comprehended the significance of thinking about numerous viewpoints, and we ought to do likewise in our advanced world. For what reason is it so essential to search out different viewpoints? Our cerebrums will quite often pursue faster routes and favor data affirming our convictions while disregarding evidence. This creates closed quarters that support our perspectives while never testing them in different thinker. Epictetus said, not the actual occasion inconveniences us, however our perspectives. By effectively looking for a large number of choices or elective perspectives on any issue, we can grow our comprehension. Presenting ourselves to various perspectives expands our insight and uncovers subtleties and intricacies that we probably won't have in any case seen. Recognize our predispositions. Drawing in with assorted viewpoints assists us with perceiving our assumptions and biases. This mindfulness permits us to assess our reasoning all the more basically and lessen the impact of our oblivious inclinations. When we arrive at conclusions based on a comprehensive examination of evidence and perspectives, we strengthen the foundation of our beliefs. Our convictions are more vigorous. Conscious discussion permits us to hone our contentions, distinguish expected shortcomings, and foster scholarly versatility. So how might we effectively search out assorted points of view? Here are a few functional advances. Counsel trustworthy, sharp sources. Search out an assortment of media sources, scholastic diaries, and well-qualified feelings that address various perspectives and strategies. Be aware of tendency to look for predictable answers and quest for data that challenges your convictions. Take part in conscious exchange. Try not to avoid conversations with individuals with various feelings. Pose inquiries, listen effectively, and endeavor to figure out their points of view, regardless of whether you clash. Keep in mind, deferential exchange is about common learning and development, not winning. Embrace assorted types of media and investigate narratives, webcasts, and books that offer extraordinary viewpoints on different points. Submerge yourself in various societies and encounters to widen your perspective and challenge your presumptions. Challenge your protected, closed-off environment to step outside your online entertainment circles and safe places. Search out networks with different perspectives and participate in helpful discussions. Keep in mind, scholarly development frequently happens past the natural. Gathering proof and looking for different points of view isn't tied in with leaving your convictions. It's tied in with improving your comprehension. Recognizing the world's intricacy and encouraging scholarly lowliness as you set out on this excursion, recall the expressions of emotionless thinker Seneca: reality won't ever harm you, regardless of how cruel it might appear. Embrace the test. Expand your perspectives and weave an embroidery of grasping, mirroring reality's multi-layered nature. With a receptive outlook and a hunger for information, you'll develop reliable discernment and explore life's intricacies with more noteworthy insight and knowledge. Example number 5. Dial back and reflect. Envision strolling through a risky mountain pass during the evening. Each step should be intentional, estimated, and in view of cautious perception. In our speedy world, it's not difficult to be rushed, yet similarly as scurry can be hazardous in a deceptive mountain pass, it can likewise prompt deplorable results in our day-to-day routines. The emotionless bosses of poise and insightful activity perceived the massive benefit of dialing back and mirroring the renowned unemotional head Marcus Aurelius once said, "Don't sit around discussing what a decent man ought to be." In the advanced setting, his recommendation can be meant to imply that we shouldn't lose all sense of direction in discusses, yet rather act with purposeful decision. For what reason is it essential to plainly dial back and reflect to think? In the buzzing about of day-to-day existence, we frequently respond rashly, depending on programmed and automatic responses. This can prompt surged choices, botched open doors, and potentially negative results. By integrating careful reflection into our dynamic interaction, we can understand a few advantages. A more exact comprehension of the circumstance. Hurrying into choices might keep us from completely getting a handle on the unique situation. Gathering the essential data and taking into account all choices, finding opportunity to reflect, permits us to dissect what is going on from various points. Distinguish expected intricacies and figure out the issue. Better decreased profound impact choices made right now, and energized areas of strength forby can be blurred and foolhardy. Dialing back permits us to move away from the prompt close to home charge, empowering a more settled and more sane assessment of the circumstance. Recognizable proof of potential outcomes. Hustling frequently blinds us to the more extensive ramifications of our decisions. Reflection enables us to expect potential results, anticipate potentially negative results, and settle on choices lined up with our drawn-out objectives and values. Development of mindfulness. By stopping and reflecting, we gain significant experiences into our thinking designs. Inclinations and profound triggers. Our mindfulness engages us to live by our certified selves and standards, empowering us to settle on decisions that reverberate with our internal being. In any case, how might we integrate this training into our bustling lives? Here are a few functional advances. Plan reflection time. Put away a particular time for reflection, regardless of whether it's only 10 minutes every day. Utilize this opportunity to diary, reflect, or just sit discreetly and mull over your viewpoints and encounters. Ask yourself directing inquiries prior to settling on a choice. Pause for a minute to ask yourself inquiries like, did I consider every one of the potential decisions, and what could occur assuming I picked one over the others? Or does this choice line up with my qualities and objectives? Seek perspectives from outside. Talk about your viewpoints and worries with confided in companions, guides, or experts. Their bits of knowledge can offer important input and widen your point of view. Keep an open mind. By rehearsing care practices like profound breathing or being available right now, we can develop a careful way to deal with navigation. This assists us with isolating from imprudent responses and pursue more smart decisions. Keep in mind, dialing back and reflecting isn't about tarrying or hesitation. It's tied in with developing purposeful decision, a foundation of consistent discernment and mindful activity. You will acquire the wisdom and composure to navigate the world's complexity with greater clarity and purpose by incorporating these practices into your life. As the apathetic thinker Zeno once said, the best solution for outrage is delay. Draw in careful reflection, and watch your navigation change for the better in illustration number 6. Embrace rationale and music. Have you at any point had a go at exploring through a turbulent ocean without a compass? It tends to challenge. Additionally, when we settle on choices exclusively founded on feelings, it can now and then steer us off track. The apathetic advocates of reason and rationale grasped this risk. They accepted that reason was the way to reliable discernment as it helped separate feelings from judgment. For what reason is it so vital to embrace rationale and justification behind reliable discernment? While feelings can add profundity to our encounters, they can likewise cloud our judgment, making us make imprudent decisions. Slanted translations and one-sided insights. By integrating rationale and reason into our reasoning, we open a few benefits. Understanding emotional biases. Emotions frequently bring out hidden biases in our thinking that go unnoticed by us. Rationale and reason help us recognize and beat these predispositions. While assessing proof equitably, feelings can slant our understanding of the proof, driving us to pick data that affirms our convictions. Intelligent thinking and reason permit us to equitably break down proof, think about all sides of an issue, and reach inferences in view of realities. Distinguishing intelligent false notions. Feelings can cloud our capacity to perceive misguided thinking designs. Rationale and reason furnish us with the instruments to distinguish sensible misrepresentations and keep us from being deluded by awful contentions. Settling on all-around contemplated choices. When feelings take the driver's seat, our decisions frequently become imprudent and foolish. Rationale and reason permit us to step back, weigh choices cautiously, and pick a game plan lined up with our drawn-out objectives and values. However, embracing logic and reason does not imply completely ignoring feelings. They are useful data points that help us understand our values, wants, and needs. The key is recognizing their presence while not allowing them to direct our decisions. Here are functional moves toward develop this equilibrium. Distinguish your close-to-home triggers. Ponder circumstances that inspire compelling feelings. Understanding these triggers enables you to expect their impact and answer all the more unequivocally. Mark your feelings while encountering extreme feelings, name them, and recognize their presence. This straightforward demonstration can make a space among you and your sentiments. Considering more true perception. Look for assorted points of view. Examine your contemplations and sentiments with believed people who can offer objective input and challenge your profound predispositions. Defer judgment in sincerely charged situations. Fight the temptation to promptly respond. Give yourself an opportunity to chill off, accumulate data, and intelligently reason prior to choosing. Keep in mind, embracing rationale and reason isn't tied in with stifling feelings. It's tied in with developing an amicable relationship where feelings are available. In any case, don't control your reasoning by employing the compass of reason close by the guide of your feelings. You explore life's intricacies with more prominent lucidity, reason, and all-around contemplated choices. As the unemotional thinker Epictetus shrewdly expressed, not the actual occasion inconveniences us, however our perspectives about it. Pick your perspectives carefully, educated by rationale and reason, and graph a course towards a satisfying and significant future. 7th lesson. Avoid emotional hijacking. Have you at any point encountered an unexpected tempest while cruising a boat? The waves crash, the wind howls, and the visibility decreases. Assuming that you are ill-equipped, the tempest can rapidly dominate, tossing your vessel around and putting you helpless before the components. Also, when our feelings are extreme and unregulated, they can assume control over our reasoning, driving us to settle on incautious choices and imperfect decisions. The Stoics were bosses of discretion and unwavering discernment and were very much aware of this risk. They accepted that our close-to-home dictator could briefly remove our objective brain, bringing about activities we could lament later. For what reason is personal commandeering such a danger to consistent discernment? At the point when our feelings are solid, our mind's alert framework, the amygdala, assumes control over, closing down the prefrontal cortex, the focal point of reason and rationale. This base reaction is intended for guaranteed endurance, yet it can mislead us in regular day-to-day existence. This is the way impeded independent direction, and our feelings can cloud our judgment, pursuing us inclined to hasty decisions that we might lament later. We could express destructive things out of resentment, settle on rash monetary choices, or carry on in manners that harm connections and contorted translations. Our feelings can twist our impression of the real world, aggravating us or better than they really are. We could overcompensate to minor misfortunes, customize nonpartisan remarks, or rush to make negative judgment calls without proof. Energizing clash, unmanaged feelings can raise debates, prompting contentions. Errors and stress connections, we could express frightful things, act protectively, or shut down correspondence through and through. So how might we forestall close-to-home commandeering and recapture our reasoning? The Stoics, with their accentuation on mindfulness and close-to-home guideline, offer a few important instruments. With predictable act of care contemplation, we can foster the capacity to perceive our feelings as they surface. Through this mindfulness, we can notice our feelings without judgment and pick how to answer. This makes space between the upgrade and our response, enabling us to lead serenely and eagerly. Profound taking in snapshots of overpower, essentially taking sluggish, full breaths, can do ponders. Enacting the parasympathetic sensory system can advance unwinding and decrease pressure. Or flight reaction. This cycle has been known to assist with people in quiet down and straightforwardness uneasiness. This helps quiet our body and brain, taking into consideration more sane idea and a feeling of harmony. Through mental rebuilding, we can challenge pessimistic idea designs that fuel close-to-home responses. We can ask ourselves, is this thought exact? Are there elective viewpoints? What proof backings this idea? By re-evaluating our reasoning, we can de-escalate profound force. Making a stride back, assuming that we feel our feelings assuming control over, we can eliminate ourselves from the circumstance, either genuinely or intellectually. We can go for a stroll, pay attention to quieting music, or take part in a loosening up movement. Our feelings can relax as a result, and we can think more clearly. Upon our return, recall that profound commandeering is definitely not an indication of shortcoming. It is an instinctive human reaction. Be that as it may, by understanding the dangers and outfitting ourselves with these apparatuses, we can recover control of our feelings and develop consistent discernment even in the midst of life's storms. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the goal of life is to stand on the side of the truth rather than the majority. By dominating our feelings, we stay consistent with our qualities, use wise judgment, and explore existence with more noteworthy clearness and reason. So we should be the commanders of our boats, climate close to home tempests with elegance, and steer our reasoning towards a more splendid, really satisfying excursion. Lesson number 8. Practice undivided attention. Assuming you're confronted with a riddle that is lacking parts, you will not have the option to settle it regardless of how gifted you are, as you want the total picture. Similarly, exploring life's intricacies requires grasping different points of view, and undivided attention is the way to opening these significant, unique pieces. The Stoics, known for their accentuation on unwavering discernment and open correspondence, perceived the significance of this crucial ability. As their regarded rationalist once said, a savvy man should figure out how to contend for his own perspective without malevolence towards the people who oppose him, stressing the meaning of undivided attention, for protecting our seas as well as for really grasping the perspectives of others. For what reason is effectively listening so significant? For in the present speedy world, we frequently fall into the snare of uninvolved tuning in, where we hear words yet neglect to grasp their actual importance. This can prompt misinterpretations, botched open doors for learning, and surprisingly, superfluous struggle. Undivided attention, be that as it may, goes past simple hearing. It is a cognizant work to zero in on the speaker and try not to get diverted. Center your look around the speaker and offer them unified consideration, which incorporates noticing their nonverbal communication and manner of speaking. Identify with the speaker and attempt to grasp the speaker's point of view, feelings, and encounters, regardless of whether you conflict. This cultivates a veritable association and makes the way for a more profound comprehension. Pose explaining inquiries. Feel free to inquiries to guarantee you comprehend the speaker's significance precisely. This shows your advantage and urges the speaker to expound, giving a more extravagant image of their viewpoint. Abstain from intruding. Fight the temptation to hop in with your viewpoints or conclusions. Give the speaker space to completely communicate their thoughts and try not to prevent the progression of correspondence. Reflect and sum up subsequent to tuning in. Pause for a minute to consider what you've heard. Momentarily sum up the speaker's primary concerns to show your comprehension and energize further discourse by integrating these practices. Undivided attention opens a few advantages. Improved understanding. You gain a more profound appreciation for different perspectives. Extending your insight and testing your predispositions lessens struggle by really grasping others' viewpoints. You can move toward conflicts with sympathy and regard, cultivating more valuable correspondence. Stronger relationships. Active listening fosters a more positive social environment, strengthens relationships with others, and builds trust and rapport. Further developed critical thinking and understanding complex issues exhaustively are conceivable by considering different viewpoints, which can prompt more successful arrangements. Keep in mind, undivided attention isn't simply an expertise, it's an outlook. It's tied in with moving toward discussions with interest, modesty, and a certified craving to gain from others, as Marcus Aurelius, another unemotional logician, reminds us. Burn through no additional time quarreling over what a decent man ought to be. Watch as your world expands with clarity, empathy, and deeper connections by actively listening rather than arguing. Listen mindfully, utilize your mental capacities, and try to effectively understand each discussion, unwinding its significant insights. Illustration number 9. Values clearness and accuracy in vision, exploring through a thick timberland, utilizing a hazy guide where each way appears to be questionable and uncertain. Essentially, one necessitates to have unwavering discernment and exact correspondence to explore life's intricacies, similar to a honed sharp edge that can slice through vagueness. The Stoics, well known for their accentuation on reason and rationale, profoundly esteemed this guideline. As the Roman rationalist and legislator Seneca once said, the most limited and most ideal way is to expose the whole truth. This assertion features the significance of lucidity and accuracy in thought and correspondence. For what reason is it so critical to esteem lucidity and accuracy for reliable discernment when our considerations and language are clear? We keep away from false impressions. Incapable critical thinking and decreased believability, equivocalness in correspondence can bring about misinterpretations and botched open doors for association. Others might require help figuring out our actual aims, prompting dissatisfaction and struggle. Indistinct reasoning hampers our capacity to distinguish the underlying driver of issues and figure out viable arrangements. We may just treat the side effects as opposed to resolve the hidden issue, bringing about rehashed battles. At long last, unclear language can subvert our certainty and authority. At the point when we communicate our thoughts plainly and exactly, we deserve admiration and make a more effective commitment to discussions. There are steps that we can carry out to upgrade our perspectives and the manner in which we pass on data. To begin with, we ought to characterize significant terms and ideas prior to examining complex issues. Second, we can separate confounded thoughts into more modest, more reasonable parts utilizing basic and direct language. Thirdly, by giving specific examples, we can make our ideas more relatable. Fourthly, we can request input from others and pose explaining inquiries to answer their responses to our correspondence. To wrap things up, it's fundamental for pause for a minute to assemble our contemplations prior to talking. Rather than feeling hurried to fill each quietness with words, we can partake in a few advantages by esteeming lucidity and accuracy, including improved correspondence. More honed speculation increments believability and further develops critical thinking skills. Clear correspondence, cultivating understanding, reinforces connections and makes ready for useful joint effort. Separating ideas and utilizing explicit models power us to think basically and recognize likely areas of uncertainty in our perspective. At the point when we articulate our thoughts plainly and definitively, we project certainty and authority, making our thoughts more significant. By obviously characterizing the issue and utilizing exact language, we are better prepared to recognize the underlying driver and foster viable arrangements. Keep in mind, lucidity and accuracy are about powerful correspondence, as well as the foundations of unwavering discernment. By developing this training, we can more readily explore life's intricacies and engage ourselves as well as other people to get a handle on our general surroundings. So hone your contemplations. Embrace the force of clear language and watch your correspondence and figuring out take off higher than ever. Example number 10. Hug consistent learning. Envision a woodshaper who needs to slash down a significant tree utilizing an unpolished saw. The errand becomes troublesome, and advance could be quicker with a sharp saw. Non-stop learning engages the psyche to explore life's intricacies with lucidity and dexterity. The Stoics, known for their obligation to personal growth, comprehended this standard well. The Roman head and unemotional thinker Marcus Aurelius encouraged individuals to live as though they were to experience an additional 100 years. He was underlining the significance of deep-rooted learning and self-improvement. Why is embracing consistent learning vital for reliable discernment? Our minds, similar to our muscles, become powerless without workout. As we become acclimated to natural schedules and points of view, our capacity to think fundamentally and innovatively can decline. In any case, non-stop learning goes about as a powerful solution with a few advantages. By extending your insight base by presenting yourself to groundbreaking thoughts from various teachers and testing points of view, you expand how you might interpret the world and challenge your suspicions. This improves your reasoning and upgrades your capacity to interface apparently inconsequential thoughts. Supporting mental readiness, challenge your psyche with exercises like gaining another dialect, addressing puzzles, or participating in discussions that assist you with keeping up with smartness and adaptability. It fortifies your mental muscles, upgrading your capacity to break down data, distinguish examples, and reach sound inferences, testing your inclinations. We as a whole have cognizant and oblivious inclinations that can twist our reasoning. Ceaseless learning gives chances to stand up to these predispositions by experiencing elective perspectives and taking part in basic self-reflection. This encourages scholarly lowliness and outfits you with a more genuine focal point for review the world, starting interest and imagination. A stale brain is fruitful ground for weariness and scholarly stagnation. Conversely, curiosity and creativity are stoked by continuous learning. As you investigate new ideas and challenge yourself, you open secret potential and find imaginative answers for complex issues. So how would you develop an affection for learning and incorporate it into your day-to-day routine? Here are a few functional advances. Make learning a daily habit. Spend time learning, even if it's just for a few minutes. Peruse articles on assorted themes. Pay attention to digital recordings while driving or take online courses that provoke your curiosity. Search out scholarly difficulties. Join a book club. Take part in animating discussions with companions and associates or participate in web-based gatherings that encourage decisive reasoning. Make learning a social encounter. Examine novel thoughts with companions, family, or online networks. Sharing your learning journey with others improves comprehension, encourages accountability, and encourages even more in-depth investigation. Take a risk and try something new. Investigate new trains. Peruse books by writers with contradicting perspectives or go to addresses on themes you have barely any insight into, pushing your scholarly limits. Expands your viewpoint and difficulties your suspicions. Practice decisive reasoning activities. Devote time to effectively break down news stories. Recognize coherent deceptions and contentions you experience or dismantle your own points of view. This purposeful preparation reinforces your decisive reasoning muscles. Keep in mind, non-stop learning isn't tied in with amassing information for the good of its own. It's tied in with developing a development mentality and a voracious interest that impels you forward on a deep-rooted excursion of scholarly investigation. As Seneca, another emotionless savant, shrewdly expressed, "We learn forever." Embrace this excursion, hone your psychological source, and watch your capacity to consistent discernment thrives in a world loaded with steadily developing difficulties and open doors. So leave on this experience of long-lasting learning and witness your brain change into an incredible asset for exploring the intricacies of existence with consistently advancing insight and lucidity. 11th lesson, take care of yourself. Developing a prospering planting in bars and soil is like attempting to foster consistent discernment without really focusing on your physical and mental prosperity. The Stoics, who had confidence in discipline and comprehensive living, perceived the huge association between the two. They accepted that certified prosperity and unwavering discernment are established in sound propensities and taking care of oneself. As Epictetus, their famous scholar, expressed, "Man isn't upset by occasions, however, by the perspectives he takes of them." This intelligence features the reality the way that taking care of oneself is fundamental for ideal mental prosperity. Dealing with yourself is urgent for reliable discernment in light of the fact that the brain and body are not discrete elements but rather a complex entwined framework. At the point when one viewpoint endures, the other additionally feels the effect. You can upgrade your mental capacities in numerous ways by dealing with your physical and psychological well-being. Persistent lack of sleep can hinder mental capability, making it trying to center, recollect data, and think basically. It can likewise prompt profound dysregulation. Impulsivity and unfortunate dynamic undesirable dietary patterns can dull your reasoning, debilitate memory, and add to cerebrum haze. Then again, a reasonable eating routine, wealthy in mind, helping supplements like omega-3 greasy seeds, fills your mental energy for ideal execution. By driving a functioning way of life, we can guarantee satisfactory bloodstream to the cerebrum, which assists with reinforcing brain associations and improve mental capability. In any case, practicing routinely can further develop concentration, memory, and generally speaking, cerebrum well-being. This establishes an ideal climate for reliable discernment. To develop a supporting climate for reliable discernment, you want to make pragmatic strides. For example, focusing on quality rest by getting 7 to 8 hours of serene rest consistently and setting a reliable rest schedule. Foster a quieting sleep time custom and avoid electronic screens an hour prior to bed. Sustaining your mind with healthy food sources can assist you with accomplishing ideal cerebrum well-being and mental capability. Mind-supporting food varieties like natural products, vegetables, entire grains, and inclined protein can further develop your general prosperity. Pick wellsprings of omega-3 unsaturated fats, like greasy fish, pecans, and flax seeds, to keep your mental capability in top shape. Your best feature is your body. Sustain it with healthy food varieties and feeding beverages to enable your psyche and soul. It is urgent to remain dynamic. Devoting 30 minutes of your day to actual work can assist you with accomplishing your objectives, whether it's lively strolling, swimming, moving, or group activities. Find an action you appreciate to make it more pleasant. Work out consistently can fortify your cerebrum's mental capability. Increment bloodstream and diminish pressure, bringing about a more engaged and clear psyche to oversee pressure, really, and further develop mental lucidity. Unwinding methods like yoga, profound breathing, or reflection can be useful practices. Care to comprehend your contemplations and feelings without being basic. This assists you with perceiving negative perspectives that can impact your reasoning and substitute them with additional fair-minded perspectives. Recollect that dealing with yourself isn't self-centered, however, an interest in your general prosperity. You can cultivate clear thinking, emotional resilience, and a life of greater clarity, accomplishment, and purpose by placing healthy habits and self-care first. Avoid arguing about what a good man should be, as the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius instructed. Be somebody who focuses on prosperity, develops a solid brain and body, and watches your capacity for straightforward reasoning. Bloom is directing you towards a full, satisfying, and significant life. Simply remember that embracing these indifferent standards is a cycle that requires constant exertion as opposed to a one-time accomplishment. As you apply these lessons to your everyday daily practice, you'll see it have an impact on your viewpoint, a better capacity to face snags with clarity, and a new feeling of command over your viewpoints and ways of behaving. So begin this groundbreaking excursion, develop your unemotional mindset, and release the maximum capacity of your mental capacities. Thank you so much for watching Stoic Energy.